You are ambitious, and you are broke. Not broke like you have nothing. Broke like the gap between what you plan to build and what you have actually built keeps growing every single year. And you cannot explain why. You wake up earlier than most people. You consume more information than most people. You want it more than most people. And you have less to show for it than people who are not even trying. That is not bad luck. That is not the economy. That is not timing. That is a psychological mechanism operating inside you that your ambition has been hiding from you your entire life. Here is the truth nobody in this space will tell you. Your ambition is not your greatest asset. It is your greatest vulnerability. And the more of it you have, the more books you read, the more plans you build, the more intensely you want the life you have been designing in your head, the deeper it pulls you underwater. There is a hidden, ruthless architecture. How ambition destroys financial execution in driven people. A mechanism so precise, so invisible, and so perfectly disguised as progress that most ambitious people will go their entire lives without ever seeing it. Once you understand how it works, you will never be drained by your own drive again. You know the feeling. You are sitting at your desk, maybe late at night, maybe in the early morning before anyone else is awake. You look at your financial situation. Your brain instantly maps out exactly what needs to happen. The account you should open, the investment you should make, the decision you have been postponing for 8 months that you already know with complete certainty is the right move. You gather the information, you refine the plan, you are completely ready, and then nothing happens. Not because you ran out of time, not because you forgot. Something invisible stops you at the exact moment execution becomes real. There is always one more thing to understand, one more variable to calculate, one more reason this month is not quite the right moment. You close the browser. You go back to consuming more information about the thing you just decided not to do. And the next morning, you wake up and start the cycle again. You leave every one of these interactions with yourself exhausted, your energy completely spent on a decision you did not make, quietly questioning why you keep doing this. Why do you lose when you are clearly right? Because you are suffering from what behavioral scientists call the execution trap. And it does not target lazy people. It does not target ignorant people. It specifically, almost surgically, targets the most ambitious, most intelligent, most driven people in the room. People exactly like you. Ambitious people operate under one fatal assumption, that wanting something badly enough is the mechanism that produces it. That drive and execution are the same neurological process. That the intensity of your ambition is proportional to the results it generates. It is not. In fact, under specific conditions that your life recreates every single day, ambition and execution actively destroy each other. And those specific conditions, they describe your daily routine exactly. In 1999, psychologist Peter Gollwitzer published research that broke something fundamental in how we understand motivation. His findings were so uncomfortable that most people who hear them immediately reject them, because accepting them means accepting something about yourself you are not prepared to face. People who visualize their goals with the most intensity, who felt their future success most vividly, most emotionally, most completely, were significantly less likely to achieve those goals than people who barely thought about them at all. Read that again. The more intensely you want it, the less likely you are to build it. The more vividly you can see your financial freedom, the more effectively your brain is consuming the energy required to create it. The mechanism is neurological, and it is merciless. When you construct a detailed, emotionally charged vision of your financial future, the freedom, the number in your account, the version of your life you have been designing for years, your brain releases the same dopamine reward it would release. The emotional payoff arrives before the work. The motivation collapses before execution begins. And your brain, satisfied, moves on to the next vision. Ambitious people are the most vulnerable to this because ambitious people have the most detailed, most emotionally real visions of the future. You can feel your financial freedom. You can describe the exact number. You can see the specific version of your life you are building toward. And that feeling is consuming the fuel every time, before you even open the account. But it goes deeper, much deeper. Roy Baumeister's research on cognitive depletion revealed something that should terrify every driven person alive. Self-regulation, the capacity to override impulse and take difficult, committed, irreversible action, is a finite daily resource, not infinite, not renewable by wanting it more finite. Like a battery that drains and must be recharged. Every decision you make drains it. Every plan you construct drains it. Every piece of content you consume drains it. Every strategy you refine drains it. Ambitious people make more decisions before noon than most people make all day. They process more information, they build more versions of the plan, they refine more strategies. They consume more content about the thing they are working toward, which means that by the time execution demands a real move, the cognitive fuel is gone. You are running on empty at the exact moment you need to accelerate. Here is where your ambition becomes the cruelest trap in existence. You do not stop when you are depleted. Ambitious people never stop. You consume more, you research more, you build another version of the plan that is slightly more refined than the last one, which depletes you further, which makes real execution even less likely, which makes you feel like you just need a little more preparation. You are pouring fuel into an engine with no wheels. You are running at full speed inside a room with no door. Working harder inside the trap does not break the trap. It builds the walls thicker. You are not behind despite your ambition. You are behind because of it. Before I show you exactly how this trap destroys the most driven people and why the ones who escape it do something completely counterintuitive, I need to tell you something. Everything I am about to explain in the second half of this video is the mechanism that most people never reach. Not because they stop watching, because they hear what comes next and immediately go back to preparing instead of letting it land. So before we go there, if you have been in this loop for more than a year, the link in the description is Driven 67, not a course, not more content. A 67-day forced execution protocol specifically built for people who know what to do. Now, here is what nobody has ever told you about why you specifically cannot stop preparing. His name does not matter. You already know him. He is 34 years old. He earns a decent income. He has read every book that matters on wealth. He has taken 3 online courses on investing in the last 2 years. His phone has 11 financial apps. His notes folder has 7 different versions of his financial plan, each more sophisticated than the last. He can explain compound interest, dollar cost averaging, tax optimization, asset allocation, and index fund strategy with more precision than most people who are actually executing those strategies right now. His portfolio, essentially zero, not because he cannot afford to invest, not because he does not understand how, not because he is lazy or undisciplined. Every single time the moment arrives to make the actual move, something invisible interrupts. The market conditions are not quite right. The emergency fund is not quite large enough. The strategy needs one more refinement. This month has too many variables. Next month will make more sense. Each reason sounds intelligent. Each delay sounds strategic. Each postponement sounds responsible. He does not feel stuck. That is what makes this dark. He feels like he is building something, because in his internal architecture, consuming is progress, knowing is doing, preparing is a form of execution. His drive gives him a constant sense of forward motion without ever actually moving. Now here is the part of this story that will make you uncomfortable. His brain is not malfunctioning. It is running a perfectly rational survival program that was designed long before financial markets existed. Your brain's primary directive is not to make you wealthy. It never was. Its primary directive is to keep you safe. And in its ancient pre-rational architecture, the familiar, even if it is the same financial reality year after year, even if it is mediocrity, even if it is the widening gap between your vision and your actual life, is always safer than the unknown of real irreversible commitment. Because here is the logic your subconscious runs silently, every single day, without ever asking your permission. If you never fully commit, you never fully fail. And if you never fully fail, your identity as a driven, ambitious, capable person with extraordinary potential remains perfectly, permanently intact. You are not protecting your finances. You are protecting your self-image. Your ambition creates the vision. Your intelligence builds the perfect plan. And your survival mechanism ensures that perfect plan stays exactly where it cannot threaten you, inside your head, where it is clean and admirable and requires nothing. We need to address the darkest part of this, the real reason you keep preparing instead of executing. And I need you to stay with this, because this is the part that everything else has been building toward. It is not fear of failure. It is something far more sophisticated, far more comfortable, and infinitely more damaging. It is addiction to potential. As long as you have not fully committed, you exist in a state of unlimited possibility. You could still become everything you planned. The vision is still intact. The future is still completely open. Your ambition has not been tested against reality, which means it has not been broken by it. The moment you execute, that changes permanently. The moment you make the real, irreversible move, you are no longer someone who could build wealth. You are someone who is building it, or failing to. the ambiguity collapses, and with it the comfortable, permanent identity of the person who is always about to do something extraordinary. Do you feel the resistance rising right now? That is not disagreement, that is recognition. Seeking more knowledge when you already know what to do is not intelligence. It is sophisticated self-destruction. Refining the plan when the plan is already right is not responsibility. It is the most expensive habit you own. The water is at your chin. The trophy is right above you. And your ambition is not the fuel keeping you alive. It is the weight pulling you under. If this is hitting differently than anything you have heard before, that is not an accident. This channel exists specifically for the people who already know what to do and still do not do it. If that is you, subscribe. What comes next on this channel goes deeper, every single time. What happens when you finally stop? Not when you feel inspired to change. Not when you find the right motivation. When you actually stop feeding the loop. When you stop treating preparation as a form of execution. When you stop confusing the feeling of drive with the act of building. You experience something uncomfortable, terrifying, and necessary. You realize how much of your identity was wrapped up in being the most prepared person in the room, how much you depended on the constant motion of planning and refining to feel like you were doing something real. How much the trap was not just consuming your execution, it was your identity. When you remove that, you are left with yourself. And one question you cannot avoid any longer: what have I actually built? Most ambitious people cannot sit with that question. They immediately reach for more information to soften it. Because that question, unanswered and unmedicated, is the one the trap was specifically designed to prevent you from ever facing. But the people who let that question land, who sit with the full weight of it without immediately escaping back into preparation, those are the people who execute. Not because they became less ambitious, because they stopped confusing the feeling of ambition with the act of building. Your drive is real, the direction was wrong, and now you know exactly why. The gap between knowing and executing does not close with more information. What closes it is a forced external mechanism that collapses the distance between decision and action before your brain rebuilds the preparation cycle. That is what Driven 67 was built for. The link is in the description. But more importantly, what is the one financial move you have been preparing to make for more than a year?